Welcome to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam.
So we're going to jump in, and this goes from very fun from the AI, and we go straight into hardcore tech discussion. So I'd like to introduce or ask Pavel to come up to the stage, and you will take it away and introduce the other panelists. Welcome. Are you excited? We'll grab you a microphone. Take whichever one you want.
Is it the first test? Which color of microphone I prefer?
Whatever you want.
Yes.
After this, don't forget that the Slido is active. So if you have questions as this panel is ongoing, please make sure to ask it to the Slido. Good luck, guys.
Thank you. Yeah? It's fine. Thanks for joining us. I promise this would be interesting. It's not like, it's controversial because it's not about privacy. It's about Ethereum, and not only Ethereum, ecosystem challenges, specifically rollups and centralization of sequencers. And we have a crazy lineup here. I'm really excited to have these guys here with us. But yeah, they will introduce themselves. So yeah, give them first a round of applause. They worth it. Yeah. Yeah, and let's kick off. I mean, let's start from you.
Hi, my name is Amin Soleimani. I'm the CTO of Oxbow, summoner of Moloch DAO. Been building Ethereum stuff for a long time. Today I'm going to learn what a sequencer is.
I hope so, yeah. And yeah, if it's okay to have them centralized, should we care at all? And should we care about decentralization, or maybe we just should build databases instead? Lisa?
My name is Lisa Axelrod. I'm part of DevRel team at Aztec, privacy L2 on Ethereum.
Hi everyone, my name is Talib. I'm a DevRel engineer at Citrea, and I used to be a protocol, but now I mostly talk with both Ethereum people and Bitcoin people, which is a fun job. And I'm also on stage to learn what a based rollup is, maybe. So yeah, this will be fun.
I think we're all there is no 100% clear understanding what the based rollup is, and should we even care about this? So, but I want just to start with from the middle, essentially. How you guys see the rollup landscape today and the state of modular architecture of programmable blockchains in general. What's your thoughts on that?
It's probably a good idea because not everybody wants the same thing. I think there's sort of two different schools of thought. One is we kind of initially wanted sharding on Ethereum, and so that was that we're going to have a whole bunch of homogeneous computation zones that look the same and work the same, and that can natively interoperate between them. And then what we ended up with is a free-for-all of all sorts of different types of rollups and L2s built on top of Ethereum for different types of applications run by different groups of people. I think it was kind of inevitable because people actually want their own thing. And so Coinbase wants to have Base, and Kraken wants Ink, and they're both based on OpStack, and then Arbitrum exists, and there's Athena now building some other thing on that. What was it called? I forget what it's called, but and so it's once you have that, then everybody tries to figure out how to make them work together, and then we end up trying to figure out how we get back to the kind of interop that we originally thought we were going to have with sharding. And so it's a nice little circular journey. I'll stop there for a second.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that it was inevitable, but maybe for a bit different reason. We have a lot of very smart people in the industry, with PhDs, many PhDs. And whenever someone starts doing something quite exciting, like scaling Ethereum, there is 200 people who know better how to do it. So we end up in a situation where we have many different options from the mechanism design perspective and cryptography perspective of what is the best, how to scale Ethereum in the best way. And then I think it's a bit tricky to force these people to talk to each other because everyone knows better there. And then like I don't know, for some L2s like Aztec, like differentiation is quite visible, at least from my perspective. It's like privacy versus no privacy. I understand what that means. And for some L2s, it's like you open the website, it says, oh, we are like the best, the most, so much, the one, but not clear why. So we are in a tricky situation, I think.
Yeah, I think like I agree with both. Basically, they just explained main stuff. But the way I see it is, I think we've passed the point where it was kind of useful and enough. Now it feels like we have 100 of them, and some of them are just exact copies of others or just direct forks that just changes the name of the company. And then they also raise, and then they also launch a token, and then they also dump the token. So maybe it's time to go back to the originals a bit. But yeah, it was a fun experiment, it seems, and it worked so far, at least kind of, yeah.
Yeah, the question if we can go back at all, like if it's not too late and like, the whole ecosystem now is utterly fragmented and like there are no solutions for that, essentially. Like based rollup, like Lisa, you've mentioned behind the scenes that based rollup doesn't make any sense actually for teams who's building it. Why you said that?
I said it a bit differently.
I know.
You asked, should people build the based rollup or something? And I said that, okay, in a perfect scenario, no. But, okay, if thinking like rationally, having one based rollup, it's like the most Ethereum-aligned rollup that you can come up with. Having one based rollup makes a lot of sense. Having many based rollups, it's a philosophical question, because maybe the more alignment, the better. But from like technical perspective, if you think about like, okay, what can be built on based rollup from the UX, and like me personally, like I can't tell you what's the answer, what should be built on based rollup versus like some basic ZK rollup, unless it's something where like you want to have kind of as much security as possible. Maybe if, for example, someone is building some infrastructure backup for the case of like nuclear war or something, and you want to be sure that if everything is down in the world, you have this rollup flying somewhere in the space and backing up like some databases of your like citizens and some like financial coordination or some coordination at all. Maybe for this thing, it makes sense to theoretically put it on based rollup, because it will inherit Ethereum's decentralization to the largest extent. But if you ask me, and if we think about like practical thing and not like theoretical thing, you have to do it private. You can't like put all critical infrastructure back up public. It just won't happen.
Can't you have privacy like in your rollup, in your execution, and just use Ethereum as a sequencer? Will give you liveness and security, but then like you will have also your privacy.
I think it will be like it's possible to construct it, but it will be like, you know, there is like app-specific rollup. It will be extremely app-specific rollup that will be utilized only for this one particular use case, because it will be very slow compared to all other rollups. But it will be, yes, resilient. And if someone is up for like building this, I think they can take Aztec as like starting point, like, and then modify its sequencing to put it into based sequencing. It's not like a direct one-to-one web. Requires solving some fun mechanism design tasks. But yeah.
I have a tiny question. So what is the, so in your ideal world of view, so like how does the future of based rollup work? You get 1 giga based rollup that works nicely, that is sequenced by L1, and what else do you need to make it perfect?
Privacy.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I just mentioned centralized sequencing, like, I think people in this room, like you all know, like these debates around like one weak point, not one, but one of the major weak points in Rollups today, which is centralized sequencer. Essentially, like Rollup just can order transactions or censor them or suppress them or modify them any way they see fit. Okay, up to a degree. I'm simplifying here, but there is a point. So how do you guys feel about centralizing sequencer for L2? Is it a problem? Is it really as big problem as it seems?
Before I answer this, I'm going to take a poll of the audience. Raise your hand if you know what the difference between raise your hand if you know what a sequencer is at all. Okay. Keep your hand up if you know the difference between a centralized and decentralized sequencer. Okay, still most people. Keep your hand up if you think you could explain what a base rollup is. It's like 2 people. Okay, so we have some work to do. So your question was centralized versus decentralized.
Yeah, if it's actually worse than like trust assumptions, significantly worse than the trust assumptions for the rollup.
So like the point of a rollup of something that calls itself an L2, at least where I came from initially, was to inherit the security properties of Ethereum. The idea is that you have Ethereum as a backup. And so if your rollup, for whatever reason, goes down or tries to steal your money, you can dispute the state update that tried to steal your money by going to the rollup contract on the Ethereum mainnet and taking your money and leaving, and potentially providing proof of the last valid state on of that rollup where you had your money in order to get your money out. Does that make sense so far?
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. And so like in that case, a centralized sequencer can, for example, censor you. It can screw with you in other ways, but if you have Ethereum as a fallback, then it can't necessarily steal your money. It can do things like that are kind of unexpected. Like, for example, you have your money in a lending pool on a layer 2, Aave or something. Who knows how lending pools and stuff? Okay, most of you guys understand how DeFi works. Great. So like, let's say I provide some collateral and then like people borrow it, and then I can't withdraw my money anymore, right? But like what the centralized sequencer could do is basically every time you go to try to withdraw your money out of the lending pool, they could borrow the money, and then they could prevent you from withdrawing the money. And so there's like little side games they can play, and that actually limits your ability to then go and prove that you have money that you can withdraw on Ethereum mainnet, because Ethereum mainnet's like, your money is in this smart contract lending pool. Like, I can't let you withdraw that. And so then you're actually kind of screwed. And so in order to get around that, you might want to have multiple sequencers. And so that way one sequencer cannot by itself play this game in order to freeze your money in the smart contract that would prevent you from then withdrawing on Ethereum, that would allow you to have that as the backup. Does that all make sense? Did everybody? Okay.
It makes total sense. The question is how you enforce this, like how you make actually Rollup to use multiple sequencers. Yeah. They don't have any incentive as it happens, or maybe they are. I don't know.
So there's a couple reasons. So that's one of them. That's the security reason. The other one is a sort of fairness, transaction ordering reason, right? If you don't necessarily want to give one sequencer God mode powers in terms of ordering all of the transactions, because there's arbitrage, and it's essentially enshrining the MEV that we call in one sequencer all the time. And so if it's decentralized, then it's harder for one entity to necessarily claim all of that all the time. And so I looked it up. It's called Converge, is the Athena system that's built using Arbitrum. And so part of the reason they're doing that, they're starting out having multiple sequencers so that they can have it be more fair, so that one entity isn't necessarily getting all the MEV all the time.
Makes sense. Maybe you guys can mention, tell us a little bit about your systems you're working on? Maybe Aztec, what's your approach to sequencing, essentially? Because you just recently released the sequencer.
Yeah, I think our intuition is maybe a bit different from what Amin has mentioned. For us, it's like the question of, okay, what we are building, first of all. Like, we have like L2, it's a blockchain L2, so aside of everything, we want it to be resilient, we want it to have liveness. We want it to have all guarantees. And what we are doing, we have decentralized sequencer, where by decentralized we do not mean several sequencers. We mean like thousands of nodes as an end game running the sequencer. Because whatever happens in the world, not only today, but like in year, in 5 years, in 10 years, we want to ensure that whatever happens in the world, the network continues running. We've seen, I guess, like a couple of weeks ago, when the internet in France and Portugal went down. And if you ask like a week ago people, like, is it possible? Everyone, no. And we do not know like what happens next, and maybe it is possible when the whole continent went down. And what happens if all the servers running the sequencer, even if it's several sequencers, are on that continent? So for us, we want geographical decentralization, we want entity decentralization, we want the diversity between professional operators, home node runners, and so on and so forth, because it provides the guarantee that the network will last for a long time. And for us, it's a huge responsibility, because it's not only that we are building network and we want it to last, but we build a network and people build applications on this network. And they trust us that this network will run because they want their applications to last for a long time. So it's a lot of responsibility for us. And I guess last week we launched our first testnet with decentralized sequencer. And several hundred of sequencer runners joined within the first week. Yeah.
Is there a name? Sorry. Is there a name for the sequencer, for the project? You should have a catchy name.
The name of the project is Aztec. The name of the sequencer is Decentralized Sequencer.
How inventive.
It's the first one.
Fernet. Isn't it Fernet? It was called Fernet last year.
No, it's Decentralized Sequencer.
Okay, you should work on naming.
I think it's incredible naming because it's unique. I mean, we do not have any other in the industry.
I see what you did here. Okay. Decentralized sequencer, let's call it this way. Okay.
Yeah, true. I mean, if we had the first decentralized sequencer, then maybe we would also call it. But we have a centralized sequencer, and it does not make sense to call it centralized sequencer. So that's another thing. So yeah, well, what we do, if we come back to the question, just before that, I want to mention something very briefly. I think all the decentralized sequencing discussion comes down, in my mind, to the question of whether you can exit whenever you want, which is kind of a very tricky one, because today it is not possible for the most of the systems that we have, which is really, really bad. I think we should do better. And then with ZKPs, you can actually achieve this kind of stuff. Like you can have build systems that you can exit the system even though the centralized sequencer is down or dead or screwed or stuff like that. So I think we should focus more on these as an ecosystem. I know there are crazy people working on it, but I don't think the efforts are enough. Why I say this is, so we're building Strea. It's a ZK Rollup, which is another centralized sequencer, but this time it's on Bitcoin. So the idea is you embed your layer 2-ish data on Bitcoin itself, and you also prove your execution. So you also post the proof as well for anyone who wants to verify if things are working correctly and nicely. And yeah, it's a ZK rollup on Bitcoin. We're live on testnet 4 of Bitcoin. And in addition to that, the major problem is how are you going to move your funds from Bitcoin to this layer? So current existing solutions, you give your money into some people and then beg them to not steal your money. And this is the current approach because there wasn't a better option. Now we have something a little bit better. Now we have an idea called BitVM that you can verify snarks in a very interesting way using Bitcoin scripts only. And using this, you can do one-off and trust assumption bridges, which is like you only need 1 out of n to be honest, where n entities are functioning, for the bridge to continue to function all the time, which is much better because then you don't trust 3 people out of 5 to not to steal your money. Now you have 1 of 10 or 1 of 20, and only this one single one is enough. So I kind of prefer to link this with the trustlessness, like the unilateral exit. Like, can I exit whenever I want? The answer is no, because if no one is honest, then you're screwed. But I think, again, like combining with this, so for example, if you were to do decentralized sequencing stuff, then even though the machine is down, people may still be able to exit. Or if you get new upgrades to Bitcoin, which is easier said than done, then we may have some other improvements as well. But yeah, the idea is we try to scale Bitcoin while you guys are doing good stuff on Ethereum. And we shouldn't wait, and we should ship what is possible against the limitations, and maybe in the future the limitations, we get rid of them, like scaling L1 today, like a popular idea. So yeah, that's it.
What's the name of the project?
It's called Citrea, like citrus, but make it Citrea.
I think it's one of the most interesting BTC02s at this moment.
I hope so. I hope so.
Do you think we'll ever have zero-knowledge opcode on Bitcoin, so you guys can verify natively on Bitcoin?
Let me ask this question differently. How many Bitcoiners do you need to murder in order to get a zero-knowledge opcode?
I mean, very much, like a lot of them. On the other side, like there's some very solid resistance against us as well, but luckily, you see the benefit of having a system that is permissionless. Like, I can just build things, and I don't really need to depend on anyone. So I think, like, as an industry, we should always remember that and be grateful for that. Even though it causes 100 rollups to launch, which is, most of them are exactly the same, it's still a net positive, so don't mind me on that.
So, just to drift away a little bit from technicalities, maybe it's a, like, again, philosophical question, but do you think that retail, which we all love and want to help and want to have a real impact, do they really care about decentralization and things we discuss, or we just live in our own bubble and just fix our own problems?
Whom do you call retail here?
The real people who use decentralized programmable systems.
You mean the
Blockchains.
bots in Asia, or?
Apart from this, like I myself, I am a DeFi user. I use it for payments. I use it for financing, like lots of different things. But I'm not sure if I'm like not again just solve my own problems with this super complex stack. Like we discuss a lot decentralization, what it matters, like how we fix it with technology, how we fix social consensus around decentralization, how we onboard miners in proof of work world, how we onboard Ethereum Foundation in Ethereum world, and all these like super complex problems. But do we really solve anything real problems with decentralization specifically? I'm not talking about privacy. I think privacy has a real use case. We all know that, especially people who come from like some specific countries, like myself. But then like, we ask yourself, is it really like decentralization? Does it really solve a real problem for real people?
You know, in Web2 world, you have people who are happy with Telegram, and then you have people who will tell you Telegram is not good, let's go to Signal. And then you have people who will tell you Signal is not good, let's go to Matrix. Because it's decentralized on the protocol layer, and this is like custom client, and this is the way to go. These people who prefer decentralized on the protocol layer with Matrix, they will care, the same people, I don't know how many of them, I know one, who onboarded me into this application. These people will care about decentralization of whatever they do, including blockchain.
Great, so we have 3 people now. You know one, I know 2. I mean, you're probably the 4th.
Yeah, I've used Matrix.
I'm with Signal.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly use Signal and some Telegram too. I mean, it depends on like what you're using it for, right? So it's like, to answer your question broadly, I think like people who appreciate decentralization are made, not born. Like I lost all my money in Mt. Gox once, and then I started appreciating decentralization. So like if you lost all your money in BlockFi or Celsius or FTX, like suddenly you care about decentralized finance. You care about the D, E in the DeFi, and you know, like that's how it goes. I think you know, it'll follow the same path. Like wait until one of these centralized sequencer rollups gets shut down permanently, or goes offline or censors somebody, and then they'll say, oh, we should really think about how to get our money out of this thing. We should take that pretty seriously. And so I think it goes in waves, but you know, nobody cares until they do, is like what Lisa was saying with the electricity going out in Portugal or something. Like,
Yeah. Philip?
Like, I think people like us care, obviously. And if you count us as the retail, then we care, obviously, on all this stuff that we built. If you, like, very honest, maybe brutal opinion, if you ask people that we're not mostly talking about, they don't really care. Like, just a very simple example, we say, like, everyone says, oh, Turkey has a great crypto adoption, you know, Turkey is great and stuff like that. Well, Turkey's crypto adoption is great because everyone uses Binance and everyone just tries to buy USDT. And the reason they do it is because banks really create problems for them, and then what they do is they just put the money on Binance and then one-click swap, or whatever they want. And then they get a notification saying like, oh, like Dogecoin increased 20% in the 24 hours, and then they go see this, and then they check it a bit, and then they buy it, and then they hold and, you know, gamble it a bit. So most of the people use it. Just like, I don't really blame anyone for their, you know, kind of being rich as soon as possible, to be honest. It is what it is, but actually we're now seeing more and more impact on what we do. We're now seeing more stable coin, which every day we see any one of them. And then we see more and more integrations, like just like the fintech companies doing one by one. And it actually helps us because now we can get around the ways that we're making using these stuff much more practical, which is a net win. But on the other side, you now got under the influence of more big companies and governments and presidents launching tokens. So do you consider this as a win? I don't know. Maybe it is good, maybe it is bad. I don't see it very nicely. But if you're looking compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I guess it is getting better and better. So I think it's win, kind of, yeah.
Awesome, yeah. I agree. We're getting there.
I think presidents launching tokens is better than not launching. You know, I much prefer this to like putting my friends in prison.
I mean, yeah, it is getting better at least.
In some regards. Okay, let's drift away from like this from this topic. Like, we have 2 excellent questions from audience. They're super technical, so we don't have to talk politics just yet. So yeah, the good question about MEV, like miner extracted value, which is really the big thing in Ethereum. You can say it's extortion. You can say it's a business use case. But like, how does this affect? Like, how centralization of sequencer affects miner extracted value? I think it's maybe for Lisa, like, you know all this stuff. You were in Taiko. There is no MEV in Taiko?
Yeah, correct. I've been in Taiko. I think it's the same problem of like designing different rollups in general. Solving MEV is a very interesting mechanism design problem. So we have options, but in general, yeah, if you have one sequencer and this sequencer has access to all transactions, I mean, if I were a sequencer, it's reasonable to extract as much MEV as I can if by design I have an opportunity. Because if value can be extracted, it will be extracted because, I mean, why not? Yeah. And then, like, I think for some rollups, it's their business model, because of rollup needs to earn money. How you called it? If you can be rich as early as possible, why not? Or something like that.
What?
No?
Come again?
Never mind. For some rollups try, I think it was Taiko's idea, try to implement something close to MEV boost, but on L2, where like you have block builders and they can extract MEV, and then can like reallocate this MEV through the whole chain of value creation. And then again, as Taiko is like L2, you also can do potentially cross-chain MEV because it's a based rollup. I think this was one of the main value propositions from design perspective of a based rollup, that you can do cross-chain MEV. But it's quite, I would say, technical and nuanced.
It is. Do we have time for last question from audience? Yes. So it's for Talib. Does the op return war affect you? And how big are Bitcoin rollup transactions?
Okay, just a very quick summary of what's going on today on Bitcoin world. So the amount of data you can put on Bitcoin blockchain is very limited. Per block, it's 4 megabytes. But then there are also very different variations of these. And people in the last 2 years put a lot of JPEGs on Bitcoin, and obviously not everyone liked it. Like having big butts in your blockchain is obviously not good. And then, you know, there are some different limitations of putting JPEGs, and some of them are actually technically harmful for the blockchain and nodes itself. So, and we released our white paper 2 weeks ago on how Bridge works. It's a very solid Rube Goldberg machine. Like, we can talk about it if you want after this panel. And at some point, we do something tricky yet very clever that goes around some of the limitations. And then some of the core devs realized this on Bitcoin and then said, like, look, you know what? Actually, this is a problem. Maybe we can fix this. And it's a policy change, not a fork or something. But then the moment this idea came around and we were an example, the moment anti-JPEG people went crazy, like people started to debate and then threaten us and then went on to stages, read the Declaration of Independence, stuff like that. It's just a whole another drama. But yeah, so again, the same thing. It's a permissionless protocol that we're trying to do things, just like Ethereum, just like Bitcoin. And because no one needs anyone's permissions, we don't really need anyone's opinion on that. And no, it doesn't affect us because we tried to get around it, obviously, and we found very clever ways to do things. And we will do, I think, even better. And on the transaction sizes, per a couple Bitcoin blocks, we will fill 10% or 20% potentially of Bitcoin block space, which is quite some money if you're a miner. So, but the problem is OP return people didn't realize this yet. I hope they won't realize right after this talk as well, because this is actually the thing that they're against it. And we will see much funnier fights in the next weeks, especially when we go mainnet. Check your Twitter timelines. It will be funny.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, I would continue this like for 2 hours, but unfortunately we can't. Thank you so much for coming. So please give us
Thank you.
Great panelists. And have a great ETHDam.
Thank you very much. So that was the first. How do we even describe? What word can we use for that? I maybe want to say nerd panel, but maybe that's a little bit overkill. Technical panel. Thank you very much, Collins. I appreciate that.